Okay, so let's talk about errors. Now, when you become a better programmer, you stop thinking about errors in categories. But for now, let's try and categorize them. Let's talk about different kinds of errors and learn to identify them. So we have a program, and this program has an intended purpose. That purpose is to take the variable x, divide it by 1, then divide it by 2, and keep adding the answers to this int answer. So in this case, since x equals 40, we would expect to get 40 divided by 1 plus 40 divided by 2 equals 60. There's errors here though. This code does not work right now. And the first error that we can bring our attention to are these errors that are underlined in red. Now, they're underlined in red because they are what we call syntax errors. A syntax error just means you got the Java language wrong. You did something that is illegal in Java, and so you are told before you even try to run the code that something is wrong. So right now, what's wrong here? Well, if we scroll over, Eclipse gives us a little tip, and it says we cannot convert int to Boolean. That's because this is a Boolean type, but it should be an integer. If I change that to int and I press save, we kind of get to a state where now everything's starting to look okay. So let's press play. Let's see, since we don't have any syntax errors, if our program works. Wait, we got another error. So this is what we call a runtime error. And we know this is a runtime error because it's thrown an exception. And an exception is just another way of saying error. So what's happened here? How do we fix this? How do we stop this runtime error from occurring? Well, we can actually read the error and it gives us some useful information. Exception in thread main, so it's happening in the main thread. It's a java.lang arithmetic exception, so it's something to do with math. Divide by 0. Okay, so we're dividing by 0 by somewhere and we're not supposed to do that. This code down here, the thing underneath the error description, is called the stack trace, and it actually gives us some useful information. It tells us where the error is. So errors.main, errors.java 12. So our error is in the errors.java file, which I named errors.java, at line 12. So our error is right here. What's going on? Well, as you can see, I started the int I equals 0 in my for loop. And so we're dividing by 0 right away. And so we're not getting the intended behavior. If I change that to 1, press save, now hopefully we don't have any more runtime errors. Let me press play and see what happens. Oh look, that's good. We have no runtime errors, but there's still something wrong. There is still an error in our code. And this is what's called a logic error. We get back 40, but we should be getting back 60 because we should be getting back 40 divided by 1 plus 40 divided by 2. What's happened here is that I have done something wrong. There is something wrong with my logic that is not allowing this to occur. And these errors are probably the most common and the hardest to deal with. So there's a few different ways to deal with these kinds of errors. You can use the debugger. We won't get into that now. But you can also try to use some print statements to try and figure out what's going on. So it's not giving us back 40, but it is doing the first iteration. We are getting 40 divided by 1. So let's just see what we can figure out. Let's try printing the word happens in the for loop. Now, if this is occurring correctly, happen should occur twice. It doesn't. It only occurs once. So that means that my for loop is only doing one thing, which means there's no way that it's doing 40 divided by 1 and then 40 divided by 2. And the culprit is right here. I is less than 2. I need this to be I is less than or equal to 2, so that it also runs the iteration when I equals 2. Let's press play now. Happens occurs twice, and we get 60. So we have successfully debugged our code and gotten rid of 3 kinds of errors: syntax, runtime, and logic. All right, that's it for now. I hope this helped. If you want to see any more student-made content or more tutorials, make sure to check out the TVM YouTube page, and I will see you next time.